Hello guys, Mother Nature here. I hope you guys are well. In this video, I want to talk about the herbs that you may want to consider growing this summer. Now, I had given you guys some suggestion in my previous video, but I want to talk about the placement of certain herbs and plants next to each other because that may have an impact on how they grow. Now, some of you may have heard of companion gardening, and that is the placement of certain plants next to each other because they are beneficial for each other. They help. One plant may deter bugs from eating the other. So that's why you will put them next to each other because they really are beneficial for each other. But you also have the opposite. Certain plants and herbs, when you put them next to each other, they actually deter the health of the plant. So the first herb actually I want to talk about is basil. Now, we all know about basil. It's great for our foods. It really gives great flavor. It's actually good for stomach problems. It's good for digestion. It's good for parasite infection. But when we're growing sage, we don't want to place it next to, when we're growing basil, we don't want to place it next to sage because basil can interfere with how sage grow. So you want to make sure that these two are not growing next to each other. Now the next one is fennel. Now fennel is a great plant. It's actually good for stomach problems. It's good for gas. It's good for nausea. But fennel you want to put in a container because it affects the flavor of other plants and herbs. So you don't want to have them anywhere near, you don't want to have fennel anywhere near other plants because of that reason. You just want to keep it far away. In a separate container, even better. Now the next one is mint. Now mint is a great herb. It's great for mint tea in the summertime. It's also good for mint tea in the wintertime as a hot drink. But mint is great for energy. It gives you great energy. And it's also good for stomach problems as well. But the problem with mint is that it grows very aggressively. It can take over the entire garden. So when you grow mint, it's much better to put it in a container. This way it's confined to that container. So that's just the way mint grows. Now the next one is the herbs dill. It's great for colds and flu during the winter season. And of course, it's great for enhancing the flavor of our foods. But dill has a negative impact on the herb caraway, on lavender and fennel. It affects the growth of these three herbs. It actually is going to stunt the growth. So you want to grow dill separate away from caraway, lavender, and fennel if you're considering wanting to grow any of those this season. Now the next herb is sage. I mentioned sage before. Now sage is a great herb for controlling blood glucose, and it's a great herb for people who are diabetic, but it also has a great flavor. It's good for your immune system, and it's also good for lowering your cholesterol levels. But the problem with sage when you grow it, you want to make sure that it's not near chives or onions. It's going to affect how chives and onions grow. It's going to have a negative impact on these two. So you want to make sure that sage is separate from onions and chive. Now the next one is garlic. Garlic is great for our immune system. It's also good for parasites. It's good for lowering cholesterol. But the problem with sage is that it's going to affect the growth of parsley. The problem with garlic is that it's going to affect the growth of sage and parsley. You want to grow those separately. You want to make sure garlic is not near to sage or parsley, because it's going to stunt the growth of these two herbs. So these are things are really useful to know, because a lot of us like to grow different herbs in the summertime, and then sometimes you may wonder why one is not growing as well. And this is why certain plants and herbs just don't mix well together. Now the next herb is rosemary. I love rosemary. It's really good for your immune system. It obviously gives great flavor to our foods, but it's also good for memory. But the problem with rosemary is that you want to keep it away from chives and cilantro, because it's also going to have a negative impact on those two herbs as well. And then we have oregano. Now, oregano is also a great herb for our immune system. It's good for inflammation, but it is an herb that takes over the garden, just like mint. If you leave it in the ground next to other plants, it will go everywhere. It will be very aggressive, and it will take up the life from all of the other plants that is around oregano. So you really want to put this in a container. This way it's confined to that one area. It will grow beautifully, but it's not going to affect the other herbs and your other plants. So those are some things that you may want to consider when you are growing this summer season. I hope you want to try something like maybe 1 or 2 plants. Even if you don't have the ability to grow outside, you can still plant some things in a windowsill that is sunny. You can plant basil, you can plant sage, but of course, you keep them away from each other. You space them out, but you still can grow something even if you live in an apartment. So I hope this is very useful for you. Please leave a comment, and I'm also going to put a link to more suggestions on growing for this coming season in terms of plants that you can grow together. So I hope this is useful, and I will see you guys in the next video. So remember, stay healthy. Until next time, I will see you, and take care. Bye-bye.